Frozen fury unleashed avalanches don't happen in summer. This is perhaps one of the most common alpine misconceptions out there. Not only is this belief false, but shifting weather patterns can make mountain slopes even more dangerous during warm months, bringing deadly consequences to those unprepared. No community knows this better than the high-altitude village of Silver Hollow, Colorado. If you live anywhere near this region, take heed. If you hear cracking snow or shifting ground, take shelter immediately. July 14th, 2017. It was an unusually warm and muggy day across the Rocky Mountain foothills. The region sat directly beneath what meteorologists call a thermal dome, a large, stagnant ridge of high pressure trapping heat over the area. Well above the surface, a subtropical jet streak arced in from the southwest, interacting with an upper-level low sliding eastward across Utah. All the classic elements for atmospheric instability were in place, stretching from the San Juan Mountains into the Central Rockies. Silver Hollow lies in a unique geographical corridor, tucked into a narrow canyon along the Roaring Wolf River. It's boxed in by the steep cliffs of Mount Kestrel to the south and the Sawtooth Ridgeline of Storm Bear Peak to the north. Farther west, the terrain opens into the Eagle Plateau, which captures and redirects airflow into the mountain valleys. This terrain isn't just picturesque, it's volatile. Variations in elevation create pockets of trapped heat and pressure. By mid-afternoon, the sky above Storm Bear darkened. Updrafts began forming rapidly along the sunlit ridges, where melting snowpack was destabilized by saturated ground. One particularly intense cell triggered an abrupt release of loose snow and rock. As the snow mass accelerated downhill, southern winds funneled through the canyon, a phenomenon known as terrain venturi, drastically increasing local wind speeds. This amplified the avalanche's force, carving a direct path towards Silver Hollow. Just as the village sirens began to wail, a final surge of debris from an ice shelf collapse higher up the ridge gave the mass its final momentum. A convergence of heat, moisture, wind, and geography had turned this mountain paradise into a disaster zone. The National Avalanche Center in Boulder issued an emergency bulletin. 10 minutes later, at 3:26 p.m., the avalanche struck. Mountains strike back. This F3 tore due northeast from State Highway 318 through the alpine hamlets of Elkford Ridge and Pine Brook Hollow before plunging into the dense firs of the Sierra Crest. Though thick forest took the brunt of the damage across an 18-mile path, isolated homes saw roofs torn clean off and several ranger stations were flattened. 4 injuries were reported, but the true devastation was only just beginning. The supercell surged through the Sierra Highlands and crossed into Nevada's Silver Pine Basin. Much like earlier, the storm descended into the valley where terrain-enhanced low-level shear triggered yet another bout of tornado genesis. At 4:52 p.m., the day's main tornado touched down in Lowry Creek, just off County Route 6. Initial strength was modest with minor tree damage until reaching the northern perimeter of the Silver Pine Regional Airport, where hangars crumpled like foil. It grew more violent as it approached Meadowlight Assisted Living, tearing off its entire roof while 90 residents huddled inside. The next stretch was the most densely populated part of its track, as it barreled into southern Silver Pine proper. A resident on Aspen Avenue saw a roaring funnel swallow his yard, tossing him 25 feet and knocking him unconscious. His garage was launched into a neighbor's field, and his home suffered heavy structural damage. At the historic Glenview Cemetery, century-old gravestones were uprooted. Nearby, the Ridgeway Market and fuel stop faced devastation. An 18-wheeler was hurled into the storefront, crushing the western wall, while the pump canopy was shredded and multiple cars were overturned. One driver was injured when a metal beam from the pump awning impaled her van. Just across from Main Street stood the Silver Pine Rodeo grounds. The tornado delivered a direct strike, leveling the bleachers and livestock barns. It surged across the Coldstream River, toppling massive pines along the windward face of 6,000-foot Harlan Peak. As it climbed, the vortex briefly weakened, dragged upward into the storm. But on the far side, descending air triggered vorticity stretching. Compressed and narrowed like a spinning top, the tornado's rotation intensified rapidly. Nestled between Harlan and Thunder Ridge was the Summit View Ski Lodge. Slicing straight across its trails, the tornado felled hundreds of trees, mangled lift towers, and caused $3 million in damage to the facility. As it exited toward the northern slope of Thunder Ridge, the narrowing terrain once again constricted the funnel. Homes along Crystal Lake Road were obliterated as the tornado, now over 1,300 feet wide, bore down on Marlo Academy, a remote boarding school for children with special needs, encircled by dense forest on all sides. When mountains kill, returning to the academy via Forest Route 11, 29-year-old counselor Marissa Leong was behind the wheel, ferrying 62-year-old science teacher Daryl Griggs and students Elijah Turner and Hope Medina back from a supply run to Timber Bend. They were minutes from the Marlo school gates when the tornado overtook their SUV, ejecting Leong as the vehicle was hurled like debris. Seconds later, the twister struck the campus itself, shredding the administrative wing's roof and toppling two of the school's 3 dormitories. It then continued east, weaving a narrow path between Crystal Lake and Deer Pond Hollow, before weakening and roping out just beyond the heart of Birchmere, a small neighboring town located 13 miles from where the vortex originally touched down. Back at Marlo, staff scrambled to account for everyone. For a moment, it seemed the storm had spared the students and teachers, until Marissa was found staggering along the roadside, bloodied, dazed, and barely coherent. Through tears and broken speech, she confirmed that the others had still been buckled in when the tornado hit, but had no idea where the vehicle had landed. Search teams quickly mobilized. After a harrowing 2-hour search through a maze of fallen trees and debris-strewn trails, they located the SUV nearly 1,200 feet from the road, crumpled in a ravine. None of the other 3 occupants had survived. The dense forested terrain of eastern Nevada made emergency response and cleanup efforts especially challenging. Thousands of trees littered the storm's corridor, and downed power lines left nearby towns in the dark. The Silver Pine tornado, as it would come to be known, caused 21 injuries, 4 confirmed fatalities, and over $28 million in damage. More than 110 structures, homes, schools, and local businesses sustained significant or total loss. Initially rated an EF3 post-event analysis, especially the SUV's violent displacement and the destruction at the ski lodge, prompted the National Weather Service to upgrade the twister to an EF4. Decades later, debate still surrounds that EF4 classification, but it remains the strongest tornado officially recorded in Nevada's mountainous interior. In the aftermath, a wave of research followed the July 2017 outbreak. Meteorologists and atmospheric scientists from multiple institutions collaborated to investigate how mountainous terrain may influence tornado genesis. Although limited surface and radar data from that day hindered absolute conclusions, simulations and field surveys highlighted a repeated pattern. Tornadoes interacting with steep terrain, especially descending leeward slopes, often saw a boost in intensity due to vortex stretching and valley channeling. That same pattern echoed in the 2023 Storm Ridge EF3, which also exhibited explosive intensification after crossing a ridgeline. The Silver Pine disaster remains a sobering reminder that tornadoes are not limited to flatland states. They may be rare in mountain regions, but when the ingredients align, terrain, wind shear, and instability, the consequences can be just as, if not more, catastrophic. Events like Silver Pine and Great Barrington challenge outdated beliefs and drive crucial updates to emergency preparedness in less expected regions.